Hi, this is Bobby Brown, and welcome to another fucking podcast.
Truly a sight to behold. The man beat the once great champ, now a study in moppishness. No longer the victory-hungry stallion we've raced so many times before, but a pathetic, washed-up, aged ex-champion.
All right, let's go.
I think you know the guy. And I think you know him pretty damn well. His name is
Izzy Presley.
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 What's my name? Say my name, bitch!
My good friend, Izzy Presley.
Izzy Presley.
Izzy Presley.
Izzy Presley. Ouch!
Izzy Presley. Whoa, that sounds a little weird.
Izzy Presley.
Izzy Presley.
Izzy Presley, the heaviest, girthiest rock DJ around.
Hey, this is Jeff LaBar. You listen to Izzy Presley. Those aren't pillows.
No, Jeff, they're not pillows. Hello, Las Vegas. Hello, world. Hello, my loyal minions. It is good to see you. It is always good to be seen. My name is Izzy Presley. I'm the host of the program. It's called Another Effing Podcast. Coming up on 13 years. Podcasts come and go. This one is staying forever. Big day here on Another Effing Podcast. It is currently, what time is it? It's currently 2:34 p.m. here in Las Vegas. I just did an interview with Brian Slagel, which you guys are going to see here in just a minute. And fun episode, getting his history. We talk some hockey. We talk some metal. We talk about his role in Into the Void, the series that is on Hulu right now, which I highly suggest you all check out. Of course, we talk about Kiss. We talk about NAPSTER, which is actually a lot of fun. Kind of getting a record label executive owner's thoughts on it. So it's a good time. I hope you guys enjoy the interview because I know I had a good time doing it. I've known Brian for a while, and I can't believe it finally happened. We've been in the same town for 3.5 years, and it finally happened. And check out metalbladerecords.com. Go see the museum, metalblade.com/museum. Book your tour. Coming up for me, first of all, hit up the Patreon, patreon.com/RealIzzyPresley. $5 a month. That's all it is. It's only $5 a month. That's cheap. That's nothing. That's 17 cents a day. That's it. 17 cents a day to support this show. And you get everything before everybody else gets it. Like, for instance, today, before I interviewed Brian Slagel, I did a show just for the Patreon. The Brian Slagel episode, by the time you see this, has been up on the Patreon since today. And tonight, I'm interviewing Mitch Schneider. He is an icon in the PR world. He's a former journalist. He worked with Rolling Stone back in the 70s, I believe. We're going to get into all that. That show's going to be up on Patreon today. You won't see it until the 25th. So there you go. Plus you get all the extra shows. It's fun, and just come in. Just come in. Enjoy it. And of course, all the socials, Real Izzy Presley, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and the show page is another effing podcast. And of course, hit up the website, izzypresley.com. All the links are there. And subscribe to this show. Subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. If you're listening or if you're watching, I appreciate it. What's coming up for me? Coming up soon, the 24th. If you are in Las Vegas, there is a show at the Tuscany in the Copa Room. One Last Kiss is performing a Halloween show. I am going to be the host MC of the show. Patrick Vitigliano. Am I saying that right? We should, Patrick. This is what we call producing on the fly. Yeah. Vitigliano. I was right. I'm good. He's from the band called The Bones. He is doing an acoustic set before the show. Very, 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 very talented dude. And then the costume contest, the whole thing. No cover, free parking. Come on out, have some fun. And then November 13th, here in Las Vegas as well. We know the big Kiss weekend is coming up, as we talked about last week. If you didn't see the episode with Keith Robert War, I suggest you go back and check that one out as well. We are basically sold out. It is One Glass Kiss with the Bones, which is Patrick's band, and $19.75 is all it costs to get in. The links are all down here. And if it's sold out, we're working on possibly releasing some more tickets, depending on what the venue says and how many people we can hold. It's going to be a good time. And I just recorded with 3 sides of the coin. So I'm going to be on that show next week. So make sure you guys check that out as well. So let's do this. Let's dive into dating tips from porn stars. And we'll be right back right after this with Brian Slagel, Metal Blade Records.
And now it's time for dating tips from porn stars.
Dating tips from porn stars. Who do we have here?
My name's Alena Croft.
Well, it's nice to meet you.
Likewise.
All right, take confidence off the table, because we know confidence is king, right?
Yes, it is.
Looks, money, or a sense of humor? What's more important?
Sense of humor.
I like that. As a comedian, I appreciate that. How important is it for you for a guy to make the first move?
Not important at all.
Really?
Yes.
You go for what you want.
1,000,000%.
I love that. Can you smell desperation?
Absolutely.
What does it smell like?
Like shit.
That's good. That's good. Do you prefer a guy to call you or text you?
I don't really have a preference. I'm not sensitive about that.
All right. And if you're going to start dating somebody, how long before you tell them what you do?
Immediately. I don't cut let them know right up front.
I love it. I love it. And if people want to find you online, where can they find you?
I'm very loud on Twitter X at Alena Croft XXX, or you can find me on Camp Soda. I'm there almost every day under Alena
That was dating tips from porn stars. Now back to another effing podcast with Izzy Presley.
All right, we are back. That was dating tips from porn stars, and we are back now with a man that I cannot believe we got him on during hockey season. It's like seeing Santa in like May. He is the proprietor, the main man behind Metal Blade Records. You know him, you love him, my good friend Brian Slagel. How are you doing today, good sir?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
I'm fucking great, man. Ready to talk some rock and roll. Let's get into hockey first. And it boggles my mind that a kid from Southern California, growing up when nobody gave a shit about the Kings, became such a hockey nut. How in the hell did that happen?
Well, it's a bit of a long story. Well, so when I was a kid in the 70s, believe it or not, hockey in LA was a big thing. We had the Kings and we also had the LA Sharks. And they were building rinks like everywhere. Where I grew up in Woodland Hills, and there were like 3 rinks around me in Woodland Hills. So it was kind of a big thing back then. But I was into all sorts of sports. It wasn't just hockey as a kid. And unfortunately, I couldn't afford to play hockey because single mom, no money. I didn't play hockey.
Same here.
But where I really became completely in love with it was the guy that was printing my fanzine at the time in 1981. He was doing work for the Lakers and the Kings. And I just started getting into the Kings. I started going to games right around there because you could get in for like $5 because nobody was going. So we went to a few live games. And once you see that sport live, it takes on a whole different dynamic than just, watching it on TV. So I started going to a few games. It was super fun, started getting into it. So anyway, he had to deal with the Kings and the Lakers, and it was a barter deal where they would print stuff for both teams. It was all owned by the same people at the time. And they would give him season tickets for the Lakers and the Kings. And his son, who was the one I was dealing with, said, hey, I know you're going to some of these Kings games. And this was like halfway through the season or something. He said, we have season tickets. Do you want to take these off our hands? We don't ever go. I'm like, yeah, sure. So I bought them and just loved it. And the next year I said, can I just have them? And he's like, yeah, switched it over to my name and it became season ticket holder for the Kings. And ever since then, I just started to be a massive fan. But also where it happened right before that was hockey was not on television at all in the late 70s and early 80s.
Right.
But all of a sudden one night I was usually done with everything I was doing by like 11 o'clock and just sat down and turned the TV on just to veg out for a little bit before going to sleep. Well, this local station just started playing the Islanders Stanley Cup games. I think it was, it's either 80 or 81. I can't remember. So I started watching, like, oh, I forgot how cool this sport is. And it kind of went crazy from there.
When did you become such a nut though? Because I mean, I know you have a place just for jerseys.
Yeah.
You have apartments just to go to hockey games in multiple parts of the country. It's like, I wore my St. Cloud State jersey and they're like, dude, St. Cloud State. It's like, how the fuck do you know that?
Yeah.
I mean, when did the obsession start?
I mean, it started really again in '82 when I first started going to the Kings games on a regular basis, and just was like, I love this sport. It's really great.
Yeah.
And it was really my therapy at that point. I was just getting into the whole scene and doing a million different things and all music related. It was kind of fun to just have like a little break to go watch some sports. I was always been a big sports fan. I've been a big football, baseball, the whole thing. But just going to the games live, I just really started to love the sport, and it was so much fun back then. The games were like 7-6, and there'd be a bunch of fights and all this crazy stuff. So I just slowly became more and more into it. That I met other people around the country, and we would like tape video. We would trade VHS videotapes of all, because you couldn't see any of these games anyway. So I just became obsessed with it. And then I started going to college games and everything else, and just I just became completely head over heels in love with the sport.
I just can't believe that. So we all know about the metal tape traders. I didn't realize there was hockey tape traders.
It kind of started off innocently where I was in New York at a Ranger game, and back then they used to have, I forget what it was called, O'Shea's or something. There was a bar right next to the Garden, and I was in there after a game just hanging out with a couple of friends of mine, and I heard these actually two girls talking about the LA Kings. And the Rangers were even playing them. They're just talking about the LA Kings and the Edmonton Oilers. And they go, you know about those teams? And they go, yeah, we're huge fans. And I go, oh, I'm from LA. I've seen tickets, and just became friends with them. And they were the ones that they were obsessed with the Kings and more importantly, the Edmonton Oilers, which was, the Gretzkys and Lemieux and Gretzkys and Messiers. So they said, hey, we'll trade you. We'll tape Ranger games on VHS and send them to you, and you can tape the Kings and Edmonton Oilers games. They go, oh, sure, that's a good idea. So we started doing that. Then there was a team in Hartford, Connecticut, and we had a band called Fates Warning. And I got one of the guys from Fates Warning, who was a big hockey fan. I go, can you tape me Hartford Whaler games and send them to me? He's like, yeah, sure. And it just kind of started from there. So yeah, it's crazy. It was based on my love of tape trading. So,
oh, of course. We're going to get into music in a little bit, but it still just fascinates me. Do you have a creme de la creme, your top notch collectible for hockey?
There's a couple. Have a Mario Lemieux autographed jersey from when they won the cup in the early 90s. That's pretty special.
No, please don't say 91 in Minneapolis.
It was, I forget, I'm not even really sure which one it was. It might have been the second one against the Blackhawks. So to ease your mind a little bit. Good. I also have a autographed Gretzky All-Star jersey from the Rangers, which is pretty cool.
Cool.
And one of my favorite jerseys though of all time is from a team that never played a game. It was called the Tucson Scorch, and they had a really cool logo and really cool jerseys, but they never played a single game. And I had to hunt and peck to find those jerseys. They ended up being in some equipment guy's basement, and I bought them all from him. And but that's pretty cool because like hardly anybody has anything from them. So.
Oh, that's fucking badass. Do you have any good cup stories? I mean, obviously, unfortunately, you've seen it here with the Golden Knights, and my disdain for the Golden Knights, but I still go to the games because when the Wild play. But do you have any good cup stories being around the cup?
Yeah. So, well, here's a few of them. So I've been lucky enough to be able to hang out with all these NHL media guys. They've kind of adopted me as one of their own. And, I listen and watch and read all these guys' stuff. So it's kind of humbling to be a part of them. And one of the guys that was part of them was this guy named Mike Bolt, who was the keeper of the cup. Phil, everybody knows Phil. Phil's like the main guy on TV and everything, but Mike Bolt was the one that did the heavy lifting. And he was a super great guy, huge music fan. So I've had many crazy nights with the cup. I'll give you a couple stories. One of them, I was in Tampa. I was in Tampa when the Tampa was going for the cup. I'm trying to remember what year that was. I think it was before they had won. I think they're playing Chicago. It was the year that they didn't win it. But anyway, there's this bar called Hat Tricks, which is right next to the arena, and we were in there with a whole bunch of people that night. And one of them was my buddy Von Lewis, who manages Kill Switch Engage. He had come down, and I had a chance to hang out with the cup before then, because Mike just like, come hang with the cup. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, it's in my hotel room. Just come by and you can take pictures and do whatever you want. I'm like, oh, okay.
Wild.
So I went, and it's just sitting in his hotel room. I said, what happens when you go out? He said, it just sits here. I was like, there's no security or anything. He's like, no, not really. So anyway, Vaughn goes, hey, it's getting like late. It's getting like 1:30 in the morning or something. And Vaughn's like, hey, I'm going to go. Mike's going to take me. And his hotel was like a 3-minute walk from the bar. So he goes, I'm going to go over with Mike and see the cup. Oh, okay, good. Have a good time. Next thing I know, 5 minutes later, they're closing the bar early, kicking everybody out, except for, me and a few of the hockey guys. And in comes the big, case with the cup, and out comes the cup, and it's up on the bar. He's taking pictures with it. It's crazy. So that was fun. And the other one was, so the second cup that the Kings won, I went to all 5 of those games, all the ones in New York. They played the Rangers, the ones in New York, and the ones in LA. I believe it was game 5. And I was with my buddy Monty Pittman, who was played guitar for Madonna for many years.
Love Monty.
Yeah, he's great. He's out with Ministry now. But anyway, we were there because we both lived in the South Bay at the time. So at the game, whatever. So I'm walking in the concourse in between periods, and I get a text from Lars, and he goes, "Hey, I see you." I'm like, "What is this?" He goes, "You're wearing a Thin Lizzy shirt." I go, "Well, where are you?" So it turns out he was in a box right behind where I was sitting, like about 10 rows up from where I was sitting, because his wife is a huge hockey fan. So they literally just decided that day, like, hey, let's go down and watch the finals game. So I was talking to them, and I go, oh, cool. You said hi and whatever for a little while. They said, you guys are leaving after the game, I'm assuming. They go, yeah, we got to go back up because, they can fly private and all that stuff. So, yeah. So anyway, the Kings win it in overtime. So now Monty and I are like, and I know a few people with the Kings, and obviously Lars was there. And so Monty and I are like, well, so what do we do? Like, do we stay here and see what happens, or do we get out of here? Because just before, a year or two before that, the Lakers had won the championship. They friggin' burned down downtown LA, and it was like I know people that were working that game. They couldn't get out until like 6 o'clock in the morning. So we're thinking, okay, we're in downtown LA. The Kings won. Let's just get out of here. We'll go back to the South Bay, which is where all the players live. Yeah. And there's a couple of really great hockey bars there. Let's just go down there and celebrate, because I'm sure there's going to be a big celebration. So we go back, get an Uber. We go back to Hermosa, which is where the big Kings bar was. Nothing. There's like 5 people there. It's like nothing had happened. Wow. Like no parties, no nothing. We're like, this is lame. Then so Monty and I were just sitting there having a couple of drinks, celebrating, and then I get a photo from Lars about half an hour. We're there, him holding the Stanley Cup over his head at the lounge at Staples, and I'm like, he's like, they'll let anybody touch this thing. I was like, I guess we made the wrong decision. And they finally brought the cup down there, but not until like 2:30 in the morning or something. Yeah. I was not going to stay out that late. But in retrospect, we should have, because I know a bunch of people who were in the party scene where it was like Lars and some friends of mine who work for the Kings and everything. It's like, we should have just friggin' stayed at Staples. And there's no riots or anything. Nobody cares.
Right. Well, I could just imagine that cup's about as tall as Lars.
Yeah, pretty much. He had some. I think it was him and his wife holding it over their heads. But
that's great.
I've had a lot of quality time with the cup, and had been able to bring friends over to see them. In fact, I brought Darius Rucker over to see the cup once. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
That's cool. I was hoping you were going to say you were at the Pantera party.
No, I could have been, which is the bummer. But it was one of those things where there's just so much going on. I couldn't get down there. However, Rita has, and other people I know, have dispelled the rumor, because the big rumor was they threw the cup off the second story into the pool and dented it. well, they did throw it off the second floor of the pool, but there was no dent and it wasn't such a big deal. And that's been confirmed by Rita, who's, Dime's widow, and Mike Bolton and other people. So I was like, kind of ruins the story a little bit, but
I
that was
know.
not
It's
there.
like it was lore.
I know. I hate to break it to everybody, but that's the truth.
Let's talk about the podcast that you have right now. I mean, because one of the reasons I want to have you on is to promote your shit. The podcast is called 100 Songs That Define Heavy Metal. How did this thing come about? Because like a lot of people started podcasts over the pandemic. I've been doing this for 13 years. It's November 4th is the 13th year of this show.
Oh, wow.
And you finally got into it.
Yeah.
How did it happen? And what finally drew you in?
Well, I did do a podcast for a while before this. I did it with my friend Sean Rourke, who's at NHL.com, and it was called Metal Misconduct. We did it for about a little over 2 years. So we would just talk to hockey players and athletes and celebrities who loved metal. And Sean came up with that idea, and I go, well, it sounds like fun, but these hockey players, honestly, have when you're talking to them or you see them in the press, they have no personality. He goes, we'll talk about music. It'll be fun. All right. So the first guy we did was Drew Stafford, who played for the Buffalo Sabres at the time, and he's friends with a lot of people that I knew really well too. But he was a terrible interview, like horrible, like 3 words. And that's it. And I'm like, how are we going to get this kind of talk? We talked over an hour. He was so into the music. And afterwards, Sean texted him. He's like, "Hey man, like, where did all that come from? Like, I've interviewed you before, and it's like it's hard to get anything out of you." He's like, "I love music, so I was talking about something I love doing." So we did that for a couple of years, and then the NHL put a kibosh on that and said, "No,
that's
anything Sean does has to be on NHL.com." So we did that for a couple of years, which was fun. But this came about, so this guy, Christian Blatt, who is a podcaster and producer, he was Dennis Miller's guy for years and years and years. He did all of his podcasts and TV shows and all that stuff. So he listens to Eddie Trunk all the time, and I'll go on Eddie's show every once in a while, just kind of hang out for a couple of hours. And he said, "Hey, I hear you on Eddie Trunk. Would you like to do a podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Why not?" And he kind of came up with like, it won't be a list, but we'll do, 100 songs. I forget what the original title was, 100 songs about heavy metal, 100 metal songs, or whatever it was. And we were originally going to do it through AXS TV because they were starting a podcast division. Well, that never happened. The Access never started that. So it just kind of sat around, and, he knows people and whatnot. So about a little over a year later, I went and did the Metallica podcast. The guys who distribute that, these guys from Pantheon Media, texted me and said, "Hey, we heard you on the Metallica podcast. Would you be interested in doing a podcast?" I said, "Well, I have a concept." So we met with them and kind of honed it down a little bit and discussed it and got it to go. And now I'm doing this weekly podcast.
It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. And that's the one thing. It's a lot of fun to do, but it's an insane amount of work. I mean, luckily the producer does all the nuts and bolts of the whole thing. Thank God for that. But, but I've got to come up with the guests and the tracks and, because we do 2 parts. We have we talk about the production with the producer or engineer, and then we talk about the actual song with either somebody involved in it or somebody a fan of it. So yeah, that's the biggest problem, is just booking this thing and getting everybody's schedules together. And yeah, it's more work than I don't need to be doing at this point.
Welcome to my world, my
friend. It is fun though, and so far the reaction's been amazing, so that kind of makes it a little bit better.
You do have some products out now. You have the brand new Metal Blade whiskey, which I have not tried yet, and you have the Metal Blade coffee, which I haven't tried yet. What made you want to kind of dive out into other realms of just other than selling music?
Yeah, so we've always had people approach us about those sort of things, and where I was like, look, let the bands do it, let them do it. It's let them do all these different branding sort of things. And at some point, a few people were like, look, you guys have a really good brand. You're kind of missing out by not doing stuff with your brand, because not only is it, potentially making you some money, but it's just, about visibility and, and you have a brand name that you should use. So I'm like, all right. So we're thinking about that. And then, both your and my friend Scott McKinley, I was talking to him one night at a hockey game, and he was mentioning that he was kind of doing the branding because he worked on that, what was that show? The 90210 doctor, plastic surgeon guy.
Oh yeah,
I forget what the
yeah.
name of the show was, but he was doing
Something
all
Beverly Hills or something like that.
yeah, something like that. I forget, but he was doing the branding for him, like all this, skincare line and all this sort of stuff. So he was familiar with the branding. Well, we actually looking for somebody to kind of be the brand manager here. Would you be interested? And he said, yeah. And he, kind of wanted to get out of the gig he was at the time. So we hired him on and just started doing a bunch of this stuff. And it's been fun, but certainly all of the liquors we've made a couple of beers, vodka. We've done a couple of these bourbons now, but
there's a rum.
There's a rum. Trying to get paid for this is like nearly impossible.
Right.
That whole world is kind of weird, but it's been fun. We've done coffees and candles and shoes and everything we could possibly imagine. But it's cool. It's just kind of cool, and you can work with some fun people doing it too. So as long as I think the biggest thing is we just have to make sure whatever we're doing, it's good quality. And it's
right
because you're putting your name on there, basically your brand on it. You don't want to ruin it. And so far, knock on wood, it's been okay.
Well, I mean, the vodka was great. I know because I drank that entire bottle. So
okay,
cheers. Let's talk about the museum too. And like I said, like over the pandemic, a lot of people started podcasts. You built your man cave, and then you decided to open it up to the public. When did the idea of like, well, fuck, we should let people come in and see this stuff start?
Well, yeah. So I moved to Vegas like 9 years ago now, and we realized it was a lot cheaper to have storage units in Las Vegas than it was in Los Angeles. So
right.
We took everything that we had in our storage units there and put it out here. And while it was going on, I was kind of I was the one basically, putting it all in there. It's kind of like, it just sucks that all this stuff just sitting in a storage unit. So I was in the process of doing a bunch of real estate stuff. So I dabble in real estate buying and selling and stuff. So this is, when the market was, you could buy a house for nothing in Las Vegas. So I bought a house just to kind of put this stuff in. I think it'll be fun, good investment for the house. And I call these tangible investments because you can actually do something with them and you're still making money on the property. So I put this museum together in the house, and I figured I'll put it there and invite friends, and when they come in from out of town, so many people come into Vegas all the time. So guys like Charlie Benante and Joey Vera from Art Sane and a few other guys would come in and they'd go, "Hey, can we take pictures?" I go, "I don't care, do whatever you want." So they would start taking pictures and putting them on social media, and I all started getting all these responses. "Oh my God, how do we see this? Like, where do we go see this?" And oh my God, I was like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I can have 30 people at a single family home in Vegas. I don't think it's zoned for that. So kind of got the idea, well, let's just see if there's a piece of property here that's not super expensive. And we found this, little place in a strip mall right near the Rio, right near the strip. And it was like really inexpensive. And the owners were super cool. So that was my pandemic thing. Every day when you weren't supposed to be leaving your house, I would go. We'd started to move in some of this stuff beforehand, but I just basically spent every day kind of putting it all together over there during the pandemic. So it gave me something to do for 4 months.
And I love that it's open now every day. It used to be just Saturdays, I believe. And but you still show up every once in a while and do the tours. Do you enjoy doing that? Do you enjoy
it's fun.
Getting in with
it's
the
great.
fans?
It's super fun. I wish I could do it more often because it's super fun. It's a lot of fun. And it's open every day, noon to 3, except for Sundays. And go to metalbay.com/museum for all your information.
Do it.
But yeah, it's fun. It's fun. And it's another thing where, I love the reaction from the fans. I mean, so far everybody has seen has been really into it. And when I'm there or not, Scotty's doing it now too, and he does a really great tour over there. So it's fun. It's cool to share that sort of stuff with other people. And it's not just Metal Blade stuff because we worked with a lot of artists over the years. We've got Deep Purple, Thin Lizzy, Alice Cooper, Aerosmith, Soundgarden, Faith No More. There's a bunch of different Guns N' Roses, a bunch of artifacts in there, and there's no heavy metal museum really anywhere in the world. So it's at least we have something out here in Vegas.
Well, let's dive into that a little bit. Like the Guns N' Roses and the Mr. Big, a lot of people don't know that you had a little hand in that stuff. Like the Appetite for Destruction, you helped that record kind of get to where it was.
Yeah, so in the early 90s, we saw the writing on the wall for the metal scene, unfortunately, because you see all these new bands coming in. And all these major labels are signing all these bands, but they have no idea what to do with them in the underground world. And we're like, hey, look, we can help market this to college radio, which is really important, and all the underground fanzines and underground record stores. We can help you because we have all the contacts there. We'll just hire us on and pay us some money, and we'll go do the work for you. And we did that. Started doing it. It worked out really well. The labels were happy. We got some extra money, when, it wasn't great. It was fun to work with. We did Guns N' Roses, Faith No More, Alice in Chains, Aerosmith, Queensryche, Mother Love Bone, which turned into Pearl Jam, obviously, Soundgarden. So a lot of that Seattle stuff, especially. So it was a lot of fun. It was really cool because we all love the music. I mean, I loved all that stuff. I even though bands couldn't say that they were into metal at the time. I mean, all those bands were basically metal bands, just doing it a little bit differently because metal was kind of should have been slapped to the underground because it was just big commercial garbage at that point, really. So yeah, it was a lot of fun to be able to do all that and do all that work. And then of course we licensed, when we were at Warner Brothers, we licensed Deep Purple and Thin Lizzy and Alice Cooper and a bunch of cool stuff. So yeah, fun.
When did you know that that Metal Blade was actually going to be a thing? So he put out that first record, that obviously the fame of, Metallica being on there for the very first time, along with Black and Blue and Keel or I think it was Steeler, right?
Steeler,
yeah. And Rat and all that stuff. When did it hit you that, oh, Jesus Christ, I think I'm onto something here?
It was a while. I mean, honestly, it was a while. The first 3 years, it was just me working out of my mom, a room in the back of my mom's house, on the backyard of my mom's house, with no air conditioning, by the way, in Woodland Hills, California, where it's 108 degrees in the summertime. That's probably why I love the desert and the heat. I just had to convince myself to get used to it. But it was just me for like 3 years doing everything all by myself, and I didn't really think much about it. It was fun to do. And I was helping the bands out. I wasn't really making any money. I was still living at home at that point because I didn't have enough money to move out. Because it was whatever money came in, you put it out, and it kind of took time. I think it wasn't until almost 4 years in, so that would have been like 85 probably. It started to get a little bit big. We got like a little office and our first employee, and that's kind of when I'm like, all right, well, I guess I have an office now and an employee, so I guess this might actually be something. And then it kind of just kept growing from there.
Like, how did Armored Saint come onto your radar? I mean, I think they're playing this week here in Vegas, correct?
They are. They're playing in Thursday.
Oh,
I will
nice.
not be
Very
there,
cool.
sadly. I'm in Dallas, and
that's right.
I need to be two people at this point in my life, but
right. Well, hold on. Were you at the game last night, watching my Wild get destroyed?
No. I wasn't. I wasn't. I was out with a girlfriend last night. So, but I did watch the replay. Yeah, sorry about that. But
hey, it's brutal. It happens. But yeah, I mean,
Armored Saint's a funny story.
An example, yeah.
So there was a publication back in California at the time called BAM. It was Bay Area Magazine, but it was throughout the whole state. And they covered a lot of metal. And there was a full page ad for this band that had won some Battle of the Bands. And they all were wearing leather and spikes, and they looked super heavy metal. And Armored Saint was the name. I'm like, this is amazing. So they had a phone number on there to call. So I called this phone number. I said, hey, yeah, I'm Brian Slagel. I do these metal maskers. I'd love to come out and see the band. And I forget who it was on the other phone. I said, well, they're out of commission for 4 or 5 months because the bass player hurt his hand. And the story behind that, which is told in the dirt, but a complete wrong story. Joey Vera was playing in a band with Tommy Lee, and they had played a gig up in the mountains in California. And Tommy Lee picked up some girl, and Joey was with them, and he was in like a Toyota hatchback. And it was snowy and whatever. They spun off the roadway in the ice and snow, and Joey went through the glass partition of the back part of the thing and messed up his hand. So he couldn't play for months. And then they finally played a gig, and I went to go see them, and I was just blown away. They were like, oh my God, this sort of European style heavy metal band in LA, just, aside from Metallica, Slayer wasn't, didn't know Slayer at that point. It was like, wow, this is really great. So, and they were really professional, sounded amazing. And, they had a pretty big following out where they're from in Pasadena and stuff. So I was like, hey, let's do something. And we ended up putting them on a Metal Massacre and then doing an EP. And off that EP, they got signed to Chrysalis pretty quickly, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's funny that like I think Chrysalis is no, it wasn't Chrysalis. There was another label where basically they didn't know what to do with bands. So it was more of
Well,
a
that was
rap
kind of
label.
yeah, that was kind of all of them back then. I mean, even
Yeah.
Chrysalis, Ron Fair, the guy that signed them, who's beyond become like he was running record labels and he signed
Mhm.
Christina Aguilera and like a whole bunch of huge bands. But he was great. He loved the band. But yeah, Chrysalis just had no idea what to do with them at all. They didn't have any other metal rock bands at that point. They didn't really have anybody at the label that really knew how to market and promote it.
Mhm.
So, it went the way it did.
How much did MTV help you out? Because obviously
Huge.
once the Headbangers Ball started, you started seeing some of these bands, and how much did that help your business?
Oh, massively huge. I mean, to this day, I talked to so many kids who said, I first heard about your bands on Headbangers Ball, and
Mhm.
yeah, it was massive. And you get a video on Headbangers Ball, even though it's once a week, you had millions of people watching that show,
Yeah.
and you could just see once the video got played on there that the record sales went up and just kind of everything went up for the band. So it was
Mhm.
massive. I mean, just not just for us, for the entire metal community. It was
Yeah.
amazing because we had this outlet that we never had before. Because before there was just all underground, and you're talking about college radio stations and fanzines and all the underground stuff. And all of a sudden, here's this, MTV was massively huge at that time. So
Mhm.
you had this mainstream channel that would devote an hour or two of metal every week, which was just incredible. And then, Beavis and Butthead came along, and that was a big thing for us because they loved a lot of our bands. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, that was huge, hugely important.
Was there ever a band where you just randomly saw them and going, ah, fuck, I got to do something with these guys?
I mean, well, kind of, happened in the early days in the scene in
Mhm.
LA because I didn't, I think I saw like a band Savage Grace that was like, oh man, these guys are really good, and then we worked with them, and then their offshoot Omen, and there was a few that in the early days, but for the most part, it was really from demo tapes that I got, like
Mhm.
back in the early days, like Trouble just cold sent me a demo from Chicago. And I was like, oh my
Mhm.
God, this is amazing. Voivod, band from Canada sent me a demo. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Work with them. And Fates Warning, same thing. Got this demo from Fates Warning. I remember got the demo and it was so good. It sounded so good. I remember calling up, I think it was Jim Matheos, who's the main guy, and said, hey,
Mhm.
can we like release this? Like this, I think we can remix this and re-release it. And he's like, what are you talking about? And so we ended up adding a couple more songs and started working with them. So that's the most part. I think I'm trying to think. I don't think there's any like cold times where I went and saw somebody. Most of the time I had heard about them.
Okay.
For example, Sacred Reich was a band I heard about in Phoenix. Well, before that, even Flotsam and Jetsam.
Mhm.
They were opening for a couple bands and people said, you should come out and see them. So I went out and saw them and blew me away and we signed them. And it was similar take with Sacred Reich as well out in Phoenix.
When did you start getting an influx of demos?
Honestly, after the first Metal Massacre came out, I mean, all of a sudden, I didn't really, I didn't know there's all these other bands in other parts of the country and the world that were doing the same thing. I just thought here's our little scene in
Yeah.
LA, and of course, there's no internet or anything back then.
Right.
But I started getting demos really quickly, and then by the time we put out a Bitch EP and then a Metal Massacre 2, and then it was the mailbox. I think I had to get a PO box at that point because the mailbox in my mom's house started getting a little too small.
Was there any demos that you heard that you're like, that actually went on to be something big?
I don't think so. There probably is because there's a couple of bands I know over the years that said that we sent you a demo way back in the day, but even they admit it wasn't particularly very good at the time. But
Right.
not too much, I think, because there weren't that many bands, and you could tell. I mean, that's the one, I guess, one thing that I can tell what's good and what's not good. And luckily, things that I like, other people like. So
Mhm.
there weren't too many of those things that I would hear and we missed out on. I guess the only thing would probably be the early death metal stuff because
Yeah.
I wasn't really super into it at the time. I was late to the party where Relapse and Earache and some of those other labels, Roadrunner, were
Mhm.
way into it. So I know we got some of those bands demos at that time, but just wasn't my thing quite yet. Took me a minute to latch onto that.
Like I jump all over in this show. Napster. When Napster happened, as a record label owner, What was your initial thoughts, and what was there? Did you have any ideas of how to fix it?
Well, see, here's the thing. I totally understood. As a record buyer, I totally understood that. You would go up spend $20 to buy a record and you'd have one good song on it. I was like, it happened to me. I was like, this sucks. So, and that was happening a lot. So, these people found out a way to make the music free, and everybody like, hey, we can get music for free, and it's good. So, as opposed to uh, going out and saying, "Oh, this is terrible," and a lot of people were saying all those sort of things. I was like, "Well, how can we embrace this? Because these are our fans, and we don't want to piss
Right.
off our fans by saying, "Don't
Right.
do this." So what we did was the bands were really great because the bands would come out and say, like, "Look, we understand why you're doing this, and more power to you. But if you keep getting all this music for free, and we can't make any money, we can't make any more music for you to enjoy. That's just
Right.
the reality of it." And slowly but surely, kids started figuring that out. I remember at some point there was a whole thing where it's kind of a badge of honor to buy the CDs of the bands now to support them, and
Yeah.
more so, I think, in our world than anybody else. And I never said, and I don't think any of the bands ever said anything terrible about it, like fuck these guys or anything like that. It's just like,
Yeah.
hey, we get it. We understand why you're doing this, but here's the reasons why you shouldn't be doing it. So we kind of looked at it like, well, at least people are listening to these bands and getting able to hear them, which is good. And, all of that sort of stuff. So we didn't really rebel against it. We just did what we could to control what we could control. And again, it was really the band's narrative. And, we made a point to tell, these bands, you got to tell your fans like, hey, we get it. We understand. But if you keep doing this, you might not get any music from us anymore.
Right. Well, the thing that I used it. I mean, like everybody did, but I would I'd listen to something, then I'd go out and buy it.
Yeah.
Because I like having physical product. And the thing that I really hated is when stuff was coming out before the album would come out. It's like, here's the new Pantera CD. It's like, what the fuck? It's not coming out for like 5 months.
Yeah, that was the big trouble. We had to do, like, I remember we had to encrypt everything and do all these things to make sure when we sent out promo copies to the magazines and stuff, it didn't get leaked out, and all that stuff was kind of tricky and expensive, but it is what it is.
Well, it's weird because I have the Silvertide CD, a band out of Philadelphia, a great rock band from the early 2000s, and I can't rip it to my computer. It will not let me rip it. Like you said, it was encrypted.
Oh yeah.
Did you guys ever do anything like that?
I think we did a few of those things, but really no, because it was expensive to do, and I just felt like, these kids are going to be pissed off. Like, no reason. Again, we don't want to anger the fans. We don't want them to be upset with us. I think it was more about an education system of why it's a problem if you do this.
So, like, moving forward, I mean, now it's like, how everything works now. What is the best way to release music now? Because I was talking to a cat from the band, the Young Dubliners, and he was saying that we have to release singles because if we release the entire record and then you release a single after that, it doesn't count as a single because it's already out on the album.
Yeah, that's true. I think the way, most labels, and, we kind of, I don't want to say follow the leader, but we do, what everybody else does. And that's the kind of the way you do it now. You release 2 or 3 singles before the record. It's more for people to hear the stuff and you're like, oh, that's cool, we like it, and kind of get the word out that the record's coming out. And then by the time the record comes out, everybody's heard a couple of songs, they've seen a couple of videos, and then, we end up having these, massive first weeks of sales, which is great because, we've had, I don't know, in the past few years, 10 or 15 top 10 Billboard albums, which is kind of crazy the way things are these days. But yeah, it's kind of the way you do it. But I think, the problem is if you put out the full record, then trying to carve a single out of it is just, people already heard the record, and it's like, well, we don't really, they'll pick the songs, but it's better to do it beforehand, and also just lead up to it so people know it's coming out, and all of those things. Although there's a lot of artists now that are just only releasing singles.
Yeah.
And not even releasing albums, and even in the rock and metal world. So we're not quite there yet, but but you can do whatever you want. Like with King Diamond, we've released, 2 singles in the last couple of years because trying to get the album done has been a little difficult.
Right.
But you can do that because you can kind of do whatever you want now. There's really no rules any longer, so that's kind of cool.
Do you like that though, David? Do you miss the old way of doing it before all the technology, or we're like, boom, this is it. You put out the single before the album, and then you release a couple singles.
Yeah, I mean, look, I get why it's done. That's
Yeah.
fine. But what I do personally is I don't listen. I don't listen to the singles before they come out. I wait until the day the record comes out, and that's whether it's one of our records or one of a band that I really love. Like for example, Iron Maiden. Like I easily could have got singles and pre-album releases to listen to the whole record, but I don't want to do that. I want to wait just like I did as a kid, like listen to it. Okay, the record's out on the day. And even with our stuff, I hate to listen to the record too early because then by the time it comes out, you're like, I've already listened to that record 1,000 times. So I wait even on our records to go listen to it, and then try to get into it, which is kind of fun to do. So it just makes it differently. But the other way is the way people are used to having it done, and I get it. It gets people excited for the record by hearing there's a new song, and then they hear another new one, and they get super excited for the record, and the record comes out, it does really well. So that formula seems to work. So we'll do it.
So we have to dive into Kiss before we go. Actually, before we get into Kiss, Into the Void. You were a consultant on the series Into the Void on Hulu. How did that whole thing come about? And what did you think of the finished product?
Yeah, there's a company called Banger Films. It's Sam Dunn and Scott McFadden up in Canada that did the Alice Cooper documentary, the Rush, ZZ Top, the Metal Evolution series, Flight 666 by Iron Maiden. They do amazing work. So some of the people that were like the behind the scenes people there, because I did a lot of work with them, they went over to this company on Hulu. It's these guys that do this show called Dark Side of the Ring, which is that wrestling, kind of the dark side of wrestling sort of thing. And I'm not a big wrestling guy these days, so I didn't really know who they were, but somebody that I knew from Banger Films said, "Hey, we're starting this new venture, and we have this new thing we'd like to talk to you about." I'm like, "All right." So I get on with Evan and the producers and a couple of the people from Banger who now work for the new company, and they're just telling me like they were like humongous metalheads. And, they do the show, Dark Side of the Ring. They've done it for 4 or 5 years, and they really wanted to do a metal thing. And they went to Hulu because it's on Hulu, and Hulu said, whatever you guys want to do, you can do it. So they were like, we want you to come in and help us because they love the music, but they don't know anybody. So it's kind of like, can you come in and help us kind of with, getting people involved and getting us phone numbers and talking to people and also just kind of helping us with the concepts and these sort of things. So I was like, yeah, that sounds like fun. I mean, look, anything I can do, kind of the podcast is the same thing. Anything I can do to get metal to the mainstream or a different audience. And certainly a television show on Hulu is amazing. So we just went about it. It was definitely a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. They paid me for it, but they, probably I think I made about $1 an hour maybe. But it all comes to
welcome to my world.
Yeah, and it was difficult too because we're trying to convince people that don't know. There's no show. There's nothing you can say like, "Hey, this is what it looks like." You're kind of putting your hopes on these guys who do a wrestling thing to make a music thing. So it took a long time. And like, for example, the Pantera episode, I talked to Rita 6 or 7 months ago before they even ended up doing anything. And she's like, yeah. And just kind of never happened. And I kept bugging her. I feel bad bugging her, but it's like, hey, we'd still love to do this. And eventually it happened and it worked out great because the episode's fantastic. And Rita's like loved all the producers, all the people, they're all part of the family now. So that was really cool. And, but yeah, it was difficult because, trying to get, Sharon Osbourne and, these people aren't easy to get into something, and it's something that they don't know really what it is.
Right.
And even for me, I was doing all this work, but I didn't see any of the footage. They interviewed me a lot for the Death one, and there's there's a Cliff Burton one in the can that hopefully we get a season 2. Yeah, that was really great. That was going to come out, but then at the last minute, the Metallica people said, "Okay, we want to get involved with this now, and maybe get the band interviewed and stuff." So we kind of
smart.
Couldn't get it done in time, but hopefully there's a season 2 because that's going to be a really, really great episode.
Wow.
But even for me, I'm doing all this, but I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know how it's going to be. The dark side I watched a few of the Dark Side of the Ring things, and they're really dark and kind of exploitive a little bit. And I didn't want that. I said, I don't want to be involved with that. So they did a good job. I think I've seen all the episodes. I think they're fantastic. So far, the reaction from everybody I know, like 95% have all been super positive. And so it's been a good experience. And more importantly, the people that were involved in telling these stories, from the family members to everybody else, really seem to be happy with the way the episodes turned out too. So
yeah, well, it was funny because I was a couple of weeks ago. I interviewed. I sent you the picture of Jason McMaster wearing his old school Metal Blade shirt.
Yeah.
And I asked him before we did, "Is like, have you watched this series yet?" And he's like, "No, I don't have Hulu." I was like, "Fuck, just get a trial just so you can watch it, you know." But I brought it up, and I started talking about, because he's a metal guy. I mean, he loves fucking. You know, Jason. Yeah, he hails you. And also,
he's great.
He pulls up this picture of him and the guy from Death, because they had worked together, you know, years ago. And it's like, wow, dude. It's like, it's so funny how small this whole community is.
Very much so. Yeah, he's another lifer. He's a great dude.
Yeah. All right, so we got to get into Kiss before I let you go. When did Kiss first? I was just watching your episode with Stoney, so of course I got Kiss on my fucking brain, because I always have Kiss on my brain. When did Kiss hit you?
Well, I was really lucky. I grew up in LA in the 70s, and I think I was pretty sure it started in 75. But we had
hold on. How old were you?
In 75, I was 14.
Okay.
So we had a radio station in LA called K West, and it was an early FM radio station, and they played all metal. That's where I discovered Judas Priest, UFO, Kiss, so many other bands, Rush, all that stuff. They were playing all that 70s rock stuff. So I first heard Rock and Roll All Night on the radio station. I was like, oh wow, what's this? And went out and bought the record. I was like, oh, this is great. And then of course backtracked to the early records, and then I became obsessed with Kiss. They became my favorite band, pretty much right away. I was making like homemade Kiss shirts to wear to school. These people at school,
Awesome.
What is that? What are you doing? I was like, no, this is a really great band. So yeah, so I started getting into them, right. Probably, I think that album, Dressed to Kill, had maybe been out, I don't know, a month or so probably before I got into it. And like I said, then I went backwards to Hotter Than Hell and Kiss. So.
And you said you first saw him on the Alive tour, 76.
Yeah, my first concert ever, February 1976 on the Alive tour. Yeah, it was incredible. I got super lucky because I was I was only 15 at that point. My mom was not going to let me go to any concerts at that point. But I lived next door to this. Had a huge influence. He was an R&B artist. He had a couple records out on A&M Records. His name is Carl Graves. Black R&B guy, had a couple of hits, but he moved in next door to us, and he had a studio and all this stuff. So I would hang out in the studio a lot. He let me hang out. He gave me my first ever reel to reel tape. When he'd go on tour, his wife would go on tour. I'd watch the house and the studio for them. And he was just a great guy, and he knew how much I wanted to go to that show. So he went to my mom and said, "I'll take him. Like, I'll take him. Don't worry about it. I'll take him." And so he took me, and it was like, just an unreal experience. I mean, your first show anyway is like, oh my gosh, what is this? But see Kiss, of all things, then it was just spectacular. They did the whole Kiss Alive set. So
nice.
It was incredible. And scary. He moved away and kind of lost track of him. Years later, our lawyer works with Oingo Boingo, and he was asking me, do you know a guy named Carl Graves? I go, yeah, he was the guy that took me to your first concert. Well, he's the keyboard player now in Oingo Boingo.
Oh, wow.
So we kind of reconnected years later, because I think supposedly he had talked to Bill and said, hey, do you know the guy that runs Metal Blade? And Bill's like, yeah, he's been our client since day one. So that was pretty cool. But so Kiss 1970, 76.
Did you get to go to the amusement park filming?
I did.
Oh,
I did. I won tickets from the local radio station, so I went. I couldn't believe I won tickets. So I went, and I got there early. And I go to Magic Mountain all the time, so I've been on those little rides 1,000 times. So I went for a little bit, but then I wanted to get a good place to watch the show, because they basically set up at the parking lot.
Yeah.
So I was there, and I was waiting, and they kept playing this one album over and over and over again, and nobody knew what it was. I kept asking, like, no one knew. I even went up to the soundboard and said, "Do you guys know who this is?" And I don't know what it is. So I was all right, but they played it a bunch. It was great. It was amazing. So the filming comes. They do the show. It's great. Then they start explaining the film, and they start doing some of the acting scenes on stage, and it's horrible. And they're explaining everything. But, oh my God, this is going to be awful. So the couple days later, I was in the record store, and I would always, search through the promo bins because you'd be able to buy records for a couple bucks. And I see a record, and I look at the song titles. I go, I think that's the album that they played at the Kiss thing. So I bought it, and sure enough, it was. And that was AC/DC's Power Age album.
Wow.
So that's kind of when I went from Kiss being my favorite band of all time to AC/DC now being my new favorite band.
Wow, dude, that's wild. Did you ever, I mean, speaking of Southern California, did you ever like see Van Halen at those backyard parties, or
no?
And
I was
you were
too
probably
young.
too young to see him in the clubs.
Yeah, I was too young. I was too young. I missed it by probably a year or two. So yeah, I was too young to go to any of that stuff. And I didn't really know much about what was going on in clubs and stuff like that because it was, I was still learning about these sort of things, and I wasn't. I was just in school and playing sports, and my mom wasn't going to let me go, and I didn't have any friends that were really into that scene either. So
yeah,
never got to go.
Well, before I let you go, do you have any good Van Halen stories?
There's a couple. By the way, really quickly, I did though get to see Randy Rhoads playing Quiet Riot once.
Oh, wow.
At the Starwood. My friend was taking lessons from him, and we stood right in front of him at the show, and the band was kind of, but he was fantastic, just fantastic. So that was a lot of fun. I don't really have a lot of Aerosmith, a lot of Van Halen stories. The one story I do have is I was going through, going through all that. When I moved to Vegas, I'm kind of going through stuff and finding things, and I have all these different boxes over the years. I had just so much stuff, so I was kind of trying to go through stuff, and also to see what was there for the museum. And I opened this one box, and there's this signed photo of Eddie Van Halen, like, "Hey Brian, nice to, hope to see you soon," or something really nice. It's on Eddie Van Halen. I'm like, I was for a minute, I'm like, where did I get this from? And I kind of remembered, oh, that's right, I got it at NAMM. And one of the guys who was doing the EVH amps at the time was working with Eddie. I remember he was asking me, you should come say hi to Eddie. He'd love to meet you. I'm like, wait, he knows who I am? He's like, yeah. So, but I never got to, I never got to see him. And I guess in lieu of that, he gave me this autographed picture, which is just spectacular. So it's now well in my my music house. It's well displayed there.
That is fucking great. Brian, dude, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Let me hit the outro music, and I'll, here it is. Brian Slagel, hit him up on the Twitter and on the Instagram at Brian Slagel. He's on the Facebook too. Hit up metalblade.com. You can get the museum link. You can buy the whiskey and the coffee there. And check out the podcast, 100 Songs That Define Heavy Metal. It's a fun little bit, and hopefully someday I'll be famous enough to do that. And when you pick another Kiss song. But so we will see you guys next week. Sign up for the Patreon. It's only $5 a month. All 3 shows I did today, this is was Wednesday the 15th. They are already up on the Patreon. You will get Mitch Schneider next week. It's already up on the Patreon. I'm recording it tonight. We'll see you guys next week. On behalf of Brian Slagel, my name is Izzy Presley. Don't forget, what I lack in talent, I make up for in the cock.